deeper in the well. Well, dig a little deeper in the well, boy. Dig a little deeper in the well. If you want to get a cool drink of water, you gotta dig a little deeper in the well. Well, dig a little deeper in the well, boys. Dig a little deeper in the well. If you want to get a cool drink of water, you gotta dig a little deeper in the well. If you want to get a cool drink of water, you gotta dig a little deeper in the well. Guess that's what we gotta do. Just some more banjo hot tunes. What's a good banjo number? We can do Dark Holler. I'd rather be.
Lie in the Pines?
Oh, that's Dark Holler. Where that sun don't ever shine. Or you got a banjo one for us? You want it slow or?
Not necessarily. He said you want it slow. I said no.
I'd rather be in some dark holler. Like that. G. Yeah.
Right? G?
G. I'd rather be in some dark holler where that sun don't ever shine than to be home alone, oh, knowing that you're gone. It caused me to lose my mind. So blow your whistle, freight train, carry me farther on down the track. I'm going away, I'm leaving today. I'm going, but I ain't coming back. I'd rather be in some dark holler where that sun don't ever shine than to know you're another man's darling and to know you won't ever be mine. So blow your whistle, freight train, carry me farther on down the track. I'm going away, I'm leaving today. I'm going, but I ain't coming back. I'd rather be in some dark holler where that sun don't ever shine than to be in some big city in a small room with you on mine. So blow your whistle, freight train, carry me farther on down the track. I'm going away, I'm leaving today. I'm going, but I ain't coming back. So blow your whistle, freight train, carry me farther on down the track. I'm going not hiding in a dark holler. Nope. How about Blackberry Blossom?
Sure.
Is that a good one, or you want to do something different?
That's cool.
Y'all got a better suggestion, let me know.
No, I mean, yeah, we're playing a little bit longer than expected.
I played out the set list. Blackberry Blossom?
How about Mando? Guitar?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Do.
I feel like I have to kick it slow.
With a 9-pound hammer it's a little too heavy, but for my size, Lord, Lord, but for my size. Roll on, buddy, don't you roll so slow. How can I roll when we won't go? It's a long way to Carborough, it's a long way to Pittsburgh, just to catch your vote, Lord, Lord, just to catch your vote. Don't you roll on, buddy, don't you roll so slow. How can I roll when we won't go? I'm going on the mountain, Lord, to see my baby, and ain't come back, Lord, no, and ain't come back. Oh, buddy, don't you roll so slow. How can I roll when we won't go? Well, there ain't one hammer, Lord, in this tunnel that'll ring like mine, Lord, Lord, that'll ring like mine. It'll ring like silver and shine like gold, Lord, Lord, and ring like silver, girl, and shine like gold. Don't roll on, buddy, don't roll so slow. How can I roll when we won't go? Don't you make my tombstone out of number 9 coal, Lord, Lord, out of number 9 coal. Don't you roll on, buddy, don't you roll so slow. How can I roll when we won't go? Hammer, it's a little too heavy, but for my size, low, low, but for my size. Roll on, buddy, don't roll too slow. How can I roll when the wheels won't go? Lonesome Road Blues, yeah. I got them Lonesome Road Blues. Holy smokes. I'm going down this road feeling bad, Lord, Lord, and I ain't gonna be treated this way. Oh, I'm going where that water tastes like wine. I'm going where that water tastes like wine. Oh, I'm going where that water tastes like wine, Lord, Lord, jump in, stay drunk all the time. I'm going down that long, lonesome road. I'm going down that long, lonesome road. I'm going down that long, lonesome road, Lord, Lord, and I ain't gonna be treated this way. I'll sing it again. Oh, they feed me on cornbread and beans. They feed me on cornbread and beans. Lord, they feed me on cornbread and beans. Lord, Lord, and I ain't gonna be treated this way. Oh, I'm going down that road feeling bad. I'm going down this road feeling bad. I'm going down this road feeling bad. Lord, Lord, and I ain't gonna be treated this way. One more time around. I'm going down this road feeling bad. I'm going down this road feeling bad. Everybody, I'm going down this road feeling bad. Lord, Lord, and I ain't gonna be treated this way. I'm going down this road feeling bad. I'm going down this road feeling bad. I'm going down this road feeling bad, 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 and I ain't gonna be treated this way. Thank y'all very much for being here.
Yeah, y'all know what time it is. How you doing, North Carolina Democrats and friends, Dems and friends? Thank you all so so much for coming out tonight in Hall River Ballroom. My name is Anderson Clayton. I have the honor and the privilege of serving as the North Carolina State Party Chair. Thank you. Thank you to everyone who's here today. Thank you all for standing. I know that can be a little bit uncomfortable, but to be honest, we had so much interest in this event. We wanted to make sure we could fit as many people in this fantastic venue as possible. And I'm honored to bring up with me Heather Lagarde, who owns Hall River Ballroom. It can be a really trying time for a business to step up and to host something like this in rural North Carolina. And we want to say thank you, Heather.
You guys, thank you. Thank you for caring about our country. Thank you for caring about our country and our county and our world. It's so deeply moving to see this. We're so grateful to everybody here who's come out, but really to all of you who've come out. I'm a deep believer in the power of community and in the power of human connection and kindness, but equally in strategy and action. So let's plan, let's work, let's do the work and get together, and please, please don't stop. Do everything that you can do to stop what's happening in the world and bring it to a place where it's equal, lovely, and healthy for everybody. And thank you so much to all you guys for being here.
And can y'all give a round of applause? We wanted to make it fun for everybody as you were coming in, so Big Fat Gap is who y'all heard up here earlier. They're backstage right now, but we're so grateful to them for being able to provide music for us. And if you all stay afterwards, you're gonna get a little special surprise from American Aquarium's lead singer, BJ Barham, who's also here with us tonight, and is gonna be able to play everybody out of here too, folks. So we are very, very excited. The reason why we are all here today is because Republicans have consistently refused to show up and meet their constituents where they are to be able to talk about and to answer questions from the people that they represent about what they are doing in Washington, D.C. right now. Richard Hudson is the man that told every Republican congressional representative that they should hide from their constituents. They should not be hosting events like this because they don't want to meet the anger and frustration and fear right now that folks have across this country for what is happening. So thank you again from the bottom of my heart for being here, because it means something. It means something to the people right now who also can't be here tonight with us, everybody. But I'll be honest with y'all, it wouldn't be a North Carolina Democratic Party and a DNC event if you did not get to see and hear from local representatives in your own backyard here in Alamance County. So before we get to the main event, I have a phenomenal North Carolina representative who now is the first vice chair of civic engagement and voter protection at the DNC. Y'all give a very big round of applause for Rayna Walters Morgan, everybody, who's here with us tonight, folks.
Good evening, good evening. Thank you all for being here today. As Anderson mentioned, I am an attorney and the Vice Chair for Civic Engagement and Voter Protection at the Democratic National Committee. I am dedicated to making sure that your voices are heard, shared with leadership, and translated into positive changes at the national level. And to do that, we have to show up. And Democrats are doing just that. We are holding town halls in districts across the country because Republican members of Congress have been instructed not to do so. Thank you. Now, how insane is it that instead of focusing on policies that will make our lives better, the Republican Party is ducking and dodging accountability? They are too scared to show up and face the people who elected them. And that is unacceptable. All right. And they are taking cues from Trump's playbook. Instead of helping the American people, they are focusing on settling personal vendettas. Now, let me tell you this, the economy is in a free fall and eggs are $7 a carton, $7. And instead of reducing the price of groceries, which he said he was going to do, he's playing Simon Says with the economy. So that's the bad news. But here is the good news. Democrats are fighting back, and I'm proud to be on the forefront of that fight. I am proud to represent my home state of North Carolina as a national leader for the Democratic Party. Yes. Now, my portfolio as vice chair includes civic engagement, voter participation, and voter protection. And I want to focus a little bit about the voter protection aspect today. For those who may not know, voter protection teams in North Carolina and across the country have one very simple goal, and that is to ensure that every eligible voter can cast a ballot that counts. Yes. And unfortunately, the Republican Party's attacks and Trump's recent orders, executive orders, are designed to undermine the rule of law and undermine free and fair elections. And it's really important to look at the overall effect, the combined effect of his executive orders. He's issued several that will impact or potentially impact voting. He has targeted law firms, and he's named them by name in several executive orders. And yeah, you said it, exactly. And he's targeting them because they stood up for democracy. They stood up for the right to vote. They stood to hold his administration accountable. Or they represented Democrats, or they hired people that he did not like. That's intended to have a chilling effect and make law firms think twice about the cases that they take on. He's a bully. He also issued an election integrity executive order. And that executive order would have made it harder for women who are married and change their last names to register to vote and people of color. And he tried to tell states how to run their elections. But Trump does not have that power. It was a broad and significant overreach, and the Democratic National Committee and our sister committees sued Donald Trump over that executive order. And just today, we learned that a judge halted part of that executive order. And that's why I have always advocated for the consistent and expanded staffing of voting rights staffers and voter protection staffers across the country. Our staff play an integral role in understanding the legal landscape and providing information for voters and strategies for organizers. The Democratic National Committee and the Democratic Party have been on the fight for democracy for a long time, ever since Trump, actually well before Trump, tried to pretend like he didn't lose that election in 2020. And we started fighting his lawlessness then. And unfortunately, the same tactics that he tried in 2020 and 2021, we're seeing play out right here in North Carolina with the North Carolina State Supreme Court race. She won. She won. She won. That race is the only uncertified race left in this country. And she won that election by 734 votes. And unfortunately, her challenger is abusing the legal system, and the state Supreme Court members on there now have been complicit in letting this go on so long. These voters did everything they were supposed to do, and Jefferson Griffin is not seeking fairness, he is seeking power. Now, luckily, 60,000 of those votes we know will count, but there are still about 5,000 votes from military and overseas voters that are still in the balance. And it's shameful. They are challenging the brave men and women who are fighting for our country. And if they're successful here, you better believe they're going to try and do this in other states. Regardless of your party affiliation, we cannot allow that to stand, and we won't. We won't. We're fighting today, we're fighting every day, and I have the privilege of introducing someone who is in that fight, who has been in that fight, and who has been a fierce advocate for voting rights and social justice, and her name is Justice Anita Earls. Justice Earls served on the North Carolina Supreme Court since 2019, and she began her civil rights career at Ferguson and Chambers in Charlotte, North Carolina. She has led a life of public service, and she has been an exemplary justice. I am so pleased to introduce our state Supreme Court Justice.
Hello, fellow North Carolinians. Woo. My name is Anita Earls, and I serve you as the Senior Associate Justice on the North Carolina Supreme Court. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you to the Democratic Party for organizing this event and giving me the opportunity to speak with you. And you may be wondering, what does the state Supreme Court have to do with what's happening in Washington? I'm going to make that very clear in just a moment. But let me tell you a little bit about myself. I knew from an early age that I wanted to be a lawyer to guarantee that everyone is treated equally. That seemed especially important to me because my parents, a black man and a white woman, were legally prevented from marrying in the state where they lived when they met in the late 1950s, seeing the barriers that my family faced in all sorts of ways, from where they worked to where they could live, to how they would be treated when they walked down the street together, made me committed to equal justice under the law for everyone. So before being elected to the state Supreme Court in 2018, I was a civil rights attorney for 30 years, representing people and communities whose rights were being violated. I decided to run for the court because I was convinced that state courts matter a lot. You likely will never have a case in front of our court, but the decisions we make directly impact you. We decide cases that determine how much you pay for your electricity, whether you'll be fairly compensated if you're injured on the job, what you might have to pay for an emergency room visit if you are uninsured, whether there will be a way to guarantee you clean air and clean water, and whether your vote will count fairly. And what I want you to remember, what is so important to remember, is that in 2022, when Democrats had a 4-3 majority on the state Supreme Court, we decided that if the legislature won't adequately fund a uniform system of public education as guaranteed by the state constitution, so that every child in this state has access to a sound basic education, then it's the court's responsibility to enforce that right, and we ordered that the money be spent in the Leandro case. We also found that an intentionally racially discriminatory voter ID law violates the state constitution. And we said that extreme partisan gerrymandering violates the state constitution. Yes. But then in 2023, Republicans gained 2 seats on the court, giving them a 5-2 majority. For the first time in the court's over 200-year history, they reheard the case again, the redistricting case, and reversed those decisions I just talked about. They put an immediate halt to the Leandro funding. They asserted that the legislature has the right to engage in extreme partisan gerrymandering. They reinstituted the racially discriminatory voter ID law. So just think for a minute what these decisions in 2023 meant for the entire country. Instead of a 7-7 congressional delegation, which is what we had when we had fair maps, they redrew, and today we have 10 Republicans, 4 Democrats. If we had not lost those 3 seats, the House of Representatives in Washington today would be controlled by Democrats. So if we had fair maps for our state legislature, the fact that more people in 2024 voted across the state for the Democrats for State House and State Senate would mean that we had a balanced legislature instead of one with the supermajorities that now exist. So the most important thing I want you to know is that if you want to change what is happening in Washington or in Raleigh, the only path to fair representation for all of North Carolina's voters is through the state courts. Put another way, if you think that policymakers in Washington and in Raleigh are not being responsive to your needs because of the impact of extreme partisan gerrymandering in our elections, the only way to fix that is to have a state court that will enforce your rights. And I want to tell you just a word about what I said about the Griffin case, because I did issue a dissent to our court's order, and I said, It is no small thing to overturn the results of an election in a democracy by throwing out ballots that were legally cast consistent with all electoral laws in effect on the day of the election. Some would call it stealing the election. Others might call it a bloodless coup. But by whatever name, no amount of smoke and mirrors makes it legitimate. So I hope you will agree with me that state courts matter a lot. You deserve a court that will protect your right to vote, a court that will protect your right to a clean environment, your right to control your own body, your right to a government that is responsive to your needs and concerns, and your children's right to a sound basic education. I am running for re-election to keep my seat on the North Carolina Supreme Court. I'll be on your ballot in 2026, and I ask for your support. Thank you. You can sign up at my website, earlsforjustice.com. You have a chance to make a huge difference in multiple ways. Certainly by voting. Remember that Chief Justice Beasley lost her seat by only 401 votes in an election where over 5.4 million voters participated. Justice Riggs, as you heard, is ahead by 734 votes out of 5.5 million votes cast. Every single vote matters. And by using your networks to engage everyone you know in the effort to reclaim our democracy, you should know that close to 200,000 people in 2024 voted for top of the ticket and didn't vote in the Supreme Court race. So look at the potential we have. We have a great opportunity to make a difference. Encourage everyone to register to vote now before there are any more changes in the laws. And I want to say, to conclude, that we who believe in freedom cannot rest. That's right. And I pledge to you not to rest until everyone's rights are protected, and I will join with you to defend our freedoms. Thank you. And so now it gives me great pleasure to introduce Alamance County native Seneca Rogers. You elected him to represent you on the school board in 2024, and you recognize how important it is to have people on our local school boards who support and believe in the importance of public education. So I know you're thrilled to have him represent you, and I give the mic to Seneca Rogers.
Hey there, Alamance County, how you doing? And one thing I want to say before we bring on more of our special guests, because I know all of y'all didn't show up for me, but I want to welcome our guests. Since I'm Mr. Rogers, it's only right for me to welcome our guests to the neighborhood. But let's take a moment, because I am on the Alamance-Burlington Board of Education, so let's take a moment to talk about education and the continuous attack to education. Please do not get it confused. Public education is under attack. It's under attack every day. Our teachers are under attack. With the continuous fight to try to dismantle the Department of Education, they're trying to dismantle what education is going to look like for our next generation. They're trying to dismantle what the supports are going to be for our children. Imagine that, your child not having those certain supports, a kid who is on an IEP, a 504 plan, not having those protections, a kid who gets free and reduced lunch, no longer able to get that. Our students in our schools here that are Title I funded, no longer having those funds and those opportunities for our kids. Today, I was speaking to one of my friends who is an adaptive curriculum teacher. And the thing that she said to me is, in all of this chaos, I continue to not know what's going to be next for me and my kids in my classroom. All of those things. And as they continue to try to privatize education, who are they trying to privatize it for? They're not trying to privatize it for us. They're trying to privatize it for their rich buddies that keeps lining their pockets and not caring about what the education is going to look like for our marginalized, low-income students. And they're going to they want to take our taxpayer dollars, hand it over to private schools, but not hold them to the same accountabilities that they hold ABSS to. And I tell them right now, we're not going to stand for it. Right now is that moment. Right now is that moment to where we do not turn our heads and look away. Right now is that moment that we do not just say, well, we'll just wait it out. No, right now is the moment, as I always say, that you stand 10 toes down with your head up and stand on business for our public schools, for education, for our teachers, for our kids, for our community. It is time to stand up in this moment. Now, being an actual elected official here in Alamance County, we know what our challenges are in Alamance County. Alamance County, we know what we have to do. We have to continue to show up and show out. It is time to get energized, organized, and mobilized. It is no time to just sit on the sideline and say someone else is going to step up. We are that someone else. We are the heroes in this story. We are the ones to get it done. So stand with me while we continue this fight for public education. Continue to stand with me as we continue to fight for our next generation. Continue to stand with me while we fight for our educators. Continue to stand with me while we fight for our marginalized families and communities. Continue to be the neighborhood that I know that you are. Continue to be that beautiful neighborhood and that beautiful light for all of our communities. Continue to be exactly who you are, Alamance County, because we are the neighborhood, and the neighborhood is always going to be heard. And so I leave you in closing. If you're looking for me and you're looking for our neighbors, you know where to find us. We're in the neighborhood, and we're ready to get to work. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you to our fantastic speakers. I hope you all got an update about what's going on in our Supreme Court race, where we sit right now, what the DNC is doing to help us fight back, to making sure that all of our local electeds know the power that we have right here in our own backyards and the help that they have provided to us. So can we give them one more round of applause, everybody? We're gonna, I'll be honest with y'all too, our lovely speakers this evening would like our chairs to be taken away, so I'm gonna have some of my folks up here do a little brief intermission while we take a little care of this. They wanna stand, which, you know, they're hyped up, they're excited. They can hear how many of y'all are out here, and they're like, oh my God, we're not sitting still, that's crazy. So I was like, okay. And I know that y'all in the crowd are like, well, can I have one of those maybe? I don't know. I also wanna give a very big shout out. Can anybody that volunteered for the People's Town Hall raise your hands in the crowd tonight? Woo! Our volunteers and our staff members have powered this. I hope that they all helped you. I know parking was a little bit hard. It always is in rural North Carolina, but I'm hoping that they helped you in every way that they could, and also that you had a great and easy check-in process. And just a very big thank you to everybody who was out here and making that possible. Another big round of applause for those folks, everybody. And we also have here with us tonight, folks, the second vice chair of the North Carolina Democratic Party, Dr. Kimberly Hardy, is over here with us in the house. We also have our third vice chair, Elijah King, in the house with us here tonight, everybody. And I also want to give a shout out. Do we have any elected officials from NC09? Any other ones that weren't up here that were speaking? I see Senator Greg Meyer in the back, everybody. I see a fantastic Elon City Councilman Quinn Ray over here, everybody. Anybody else? Hello, baby, shout out your name. Shout out. There we go. Our town commissioner right here, everybody, Miss Stephanie Enoch, folks. Anybody else in the house that I'm missing? Any other local electeds? And our former state representative, Ricky Hurtado, is here, everybody, too, in the house. And I also know we have folks that have stepped up to run for office this last year. I thank you all so much for the work that you have done to represent our party. Thank you to all of our elected officials and the folks that have put your name on the ballot. If you're interested in running for office this year in North Carolina, and we've got you fired up to do so a little bit, you can go to ncdp.org/runforoffice and fill out the form, because our county parties want to talk to you all. All right, I think we're ready to get our show back on the road, folks. I have the honor, our panel tonight is a full-fledged opportunity for you all to hear from some good folks. And we have got the fantastic House Minority Leader Robert Reeves in the house with us tonight, everybody. Leader Reeves has been a champion in our legislature, and we are so lucky to have him fighting the good fight for people across North Carolina. And also, we're going to be joined afterwards by Senator Murphy and Representative Frost as well. So y'all give a big round of applause to Representative Robert Reeves, everybody.
Good evening, Alamance and surrounding counties. I am honored to be here tonight, honored to be before you, ecstatic that when I drove up, I couldn't find anything that looked like a park. Because that's what it's supposed to be about. This is my second town hall this week, because unlike some of our compadres, we don't run. When people need answers to questions, we come to give those answers. So I am honored to be here as part of this crowd. I am honored to be here with you, and I am thankful to be your House Minority Leader for my third term, because these are hard times. And it takes people standing up, doing the right thing when nobody's looking. That's why I wasn't nervous until I saw one of the best representatives I've ever served with, heard his name get called out, and that was Ricky Hurtado. So now I know I got to kind of be a little decent because Ricky's here. But nobody was like Ricky. Nobody will be like Ricky. I served with Ricky, and I watched the hard decisions he made. Ricky didn't put his finger up to figure out where the political winds were blowing. Ricky said, what do my folks in Alamance County need? That's what I'm here to serve. And that's what you deserve. So I will tell you, we are at an inflection point. We are at a point in time where we've got to stand together. And the good thing is our coalition is everybody. If you have worked at any point in time in your life, if you have retired from working a job, your tax money right now is funding a couple of billionaires who think they're just having a lot of fun. They have usurped our government. They have usurped everything, but they cannot take our voice. So you remember over the next 2 years when they're spending billions of dollars trying to make you not believe your lying eyes, you remember where they were in this moment. When they tried to steal your education, when they tried to steal your health care, when they took your tax money to give it away and give it away to friends. Because somehow it's okay to give it to a bunch of rich folk, but God help us, don't give it back to the people who worked and earned it. But in 2026, we're going to make sure you get that back. And that's why I am thankful that we have public servants like we have that have shown up here, that are running for office, and that will be speaking to you tonight. People like Senator Chris Murphy. People like Representative Maxwell Frost. The youngest member of Congress, the first Gen Zer in Congress. And he's only the first of many that we're going to put in there in 26. So if you will all join me in giving a good North Carolina welcome to Representative Maxwell Frost.
How's everybody doing? How's everybody doing, North Carolina? Let me move this real quick. I gotta get up here. Well, it is a blessing to be here with you. I came here all the way from the state of Florida. I used to say the great state, now I say the beautiful state. We're a beautiful state with beautiful people. But I've come here today because I'm on a tour with my good friend, Senator Chris Murphy. And we are traveling the nation, and we're going to very specific places we're going to places where your representative is too cowardly to face the people. And the interesting thing about this one, this is kind of the ultimate stop. Because Representative Hudson not only isn't hosting in-person town halls, he's the one that told all the Republicans to stop hosting town halls across the country. He told them to stop because people are showing up and they're pissed off. Because it turns out that when you try to steal from the people, when you try to take Medicaid, when you try to rip away Head Start, the Department of Education, when you try to mess with Social Security, when you mess with veterans benefits, the people get pissed. And here's one of the worst parts. It's about what they're doing, but it's also about why they're doing it. They're stealing from working people, from the people who clock in and out for work every day, to give tax cuts to billionaires and mega corporations. This is why they're doing everything. Look at the tariffs. Why do you think Donald Trump is doing this? To consolidate power and make his buddies rich. So, we're traveling the country because there is more that brings us together than divides us. These neo-fascists in office, these neo-fascist right-wingers in office are going by a playbook that is a normal playbook for authoritarians throughout human history. They take the problems that we all have collectively, the fact that 60% of this country lives paycheck to paycheck, the fact that so many people in this country don't have health care, the fact that we have massive wealth inequality in this country too, the fact that corporations are engaged in union busting. They're taking all these problems and saying, you know who's to blame for it? Not the corporations, not the billionaires, not Donald Trump, but your neighbors, the people in your community. And our message is simple. The reason you can't pay your rent has nothing to do with trans people. The reason that you don't have health care has nothing to do with the immigrant. And it has everything to do with corrupt billionaires like Elon Musk, who have been rigging this system for generations. See, here's the thing. Here's the thing. You have more in common with your neighbor, even if your neighbor looks different than you. Even if your neighbor lives a life, maybe you don't even fully understand it. But I promise you, your bank accounts look a lot more like each other than it does look like Elon Musk and these billionaires. And what they do is they gain power when they take away from the people, when they project this politics of scarcity. And we get so desperate we have to fight each other. And our message is, let's not fight each other. Let's fight with each other against them. That's what this is about. That's our message. Look, there's not one reason why you lose or win an election. But I think one of the biggest reasons Donald Trump won this election is because he lied to so many people and they thought he would shake up the system for them. He's not shaking up the system for us. He's shaking up the system for himself, for his friends, for his billionaires. And our message is simple. We're going to take back the House. We're going to win the Senate. We're going to win the White House in 4 years. But here's the thing. We can't wait 2 years. We can't wait 4 years. That's why we're on this tour. That's why I went to El Salvador 2 days ago. People ask me why. It's because of this. I don't care what you think of any one person. But when the president has the power to select a person and send them to a prison in a different country without due process, that's a problem. It's a problem for all of us. So I'm so proud to be here with you all. This isn't about Democrats versus Republicans. It's about the people versus the problem. Donald Trump is the problem. Elon Musk is the problem. And if you're here and you voted for Trump in the past, my message is simple. I'm sorry you were lied to, but welcome to the team. Welcome to the team. This movement is about addition, not subtraction. There's no I told you so's here. There's no shaming here. There's working people coming together to fight for a country that lives up to its promise. So, without further ado, I'm excited to answer your questions with somebody, and I'm excited to introduce this somebody. I've known him for a long time. I got involved in politics when I was 15 because I didn't want to get shot in school. And I've been fighting with this person for like a decade, both as an activist and an organizer, and we introduced my first bill I ever did, the Office of Gun Violence Prevention Act. So I want you to give it up for a champion in the Senate. Give it up for Senator Chris Murphy. And before I hand it over to him, I forgot to say, please give, your chair is one of my good friends. One of the best state chairs in the entire country. Give it up for Anderson Clayton. Anderson Clayton. And one of the best Democratic leaders in the country, Leader Reeves. And give it up again for Senator Chris Murphy.
Thank you, buddy. One more time for Maxwell Frost, my traveling partner. I don't know if you can see it through my Irish complexion, but I'm trying to get a little Maxwell Frost going here. So, I was once the youngest member of the United States Senate back in the day. The nice thing is, it's 12 years later, and I'm still very young in the United States Senate. There's this charity baseball game that we play every year, Republicans against Democrats. It's baseball, not softball. And every year, I'm the catcher for the Democratic team. I put on all the gear. I play catcher for 7 innings, and I'm no good at baseball. I'm the catcher for the Democratic team because I'm the only Democrat in the Senate who can squat down and get back up again. So, hey, listen. Your one responsibility, if you decide to be a United States Congressman, is to show up and listen to the people who voted you in. That is a basic responsibility of governance. But the reason that your congressman isn't here, the reason that he is hiding, is because he doesn't represent you, right? He believes that the only people who matter in this country are the billionaire class, are Elon Musk and their cabal of Mar-a-Lago weirdos, right? Who think that they are smarter than us, who think that they are better than us, right? But we are not going to let Richard Hudson run and hide, right? If you are engaged in the endeavor of trying to throw millions of people off of their Medicaid, the program that insures 24% of Americans, North Carolina is not going to let you run and hide, right? If your one big program to help people is a $1 trillion tax cut to people that need no more help, I have no idea what a billionaire would do with another $100,000 in their pocket. If your one major agenda item to help people is another tax cut for billionaires in this country, North Carolina is not going to let you run and hide. Am I right? If you believe that the President of the United States has the power to lock up, to imprison, to deport somebody just because they have opposing political views of the regime, North Carolina is not going to let you run and hide, right? So Maxwell and I are traveling the country, and we are doing the job that these Republican congressmen and senators won't do, all right? And so we are here to answer your questions, to engage in a dialogue, because, well, we are going to try to stand up and fight as hard as we can. The real power in this country lies in the people, right? It lies in the people. And listen, I know that a lot of people in this country have questions about the efficacy of democracy. I know that it has been working far too often for the few and the elites. But the people of this country are not ready to give up on democracy, right? They are not. They are not. And so we want to talk to you today about one story. There's this popular meme in kind of Democratic politics today in which, are you supposed to talk about what Republicans are doing to families' bottom lines, the Medicaid cuts, the hike in prices because of the tariffs, or are you supposed to talk about the assault on democracy, the assault on rule of law, the attempt to try to crush dissent? Okay, they are not two different stories, right? They are the same story, right? Because if you are engaged in something as unpopular as the most massive transfer of wealth from the poor and the middle class, the evisceration of the Medicaid program, in order to fund a tax cut for people that don't need it, the billionaire class, the only way you can get away with that is by destroying the means of accountability, destroying democracy. They are one story tied together. And so we are going to be traveling the country to tell that very, very simple story and to remind folks that there are still more of us who believe in democracy, who believe in the broad common good, who believe in shared prosperity than there are of them. And democracy, if it's still working, does not allow for an agenda this unpopular, mass-scale corruption, massive transfer of wealth from the poor to the wealthy to survive. And so, this is indicative of what we are seeing all across the country. There is not an empty seat or an empty spot in this hall, right? And this is what we are seeing wherever we travel across this country. Back in 2017, when Republicans similarly had control of the House and the Senate, Donald Trump was starting his first term, slim majorities just like they have now. Everybody said that they are going to get their number one agenda item done. Back then it was the repeal of the Affordable Care Act. You remember this, right? The pundits said it's their number one agenda item. They've been talking about this relentlessly since Obamacare was passed. Of course they are going to pass it into law. But what happened? All across this country, we stood up. We told the story of what would happen if 20 million people lost their health care overnight, if we went back to a world in which the insurance companies were able to deny care to kids and families just because of a pre-existing condition. We made so much noise all across this country. We threw so much sand in the gears in Washington that when the vote came on the Senate floor, you remember this moment, we had just enough Republicans to stop the repeal of Obamacare. Now, I don't know what your Republican members of the Senate and the House are going to do. Right now, they show no signs of breaking with Donald Trump on anything. But what I know is that we have shown that the people of this country have power. When presented with the kind of thievery that would have been involved by ripping away health care from 20 million Americans back in 2017, we rose up with enough collective power to stop it, despite the fact that nobody thought that we could do it. Maxwell and I have been involved in a fight that people did not think we could win. After Sandy Hook, people told us that the gun lobby is too powerful. Why are you going to waste your time trying to create a movement in this country that just enacts common sense gun laws to protect our kids in our schools? It took us 10 years. But 10 years later, after Uvalde, we passed the first major anti-gun violence bill in the history of modern politics. And we did it, and we stopped the repeal of Obamacare. We passed the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act because the people of this country rose up, because you chose to take your anxiety, your frustration about what is happening in this country today, the dissent, the destruction of the rule of law, the mass-scale corruption. You've chosen to stand up. And I will just end with this before we engage in a conversation, because that's what we're here for. We're here to do the job that your congressman refuses to do. Answer your questions, right? Plot a path forward to save this country. But I feel that same sense of anxiety and anger that you do every single day. But I will tell you that I also feel a different emotion that stands side by side with that anxiety and that anger. And it's going to sound a little strange to you, because that emotion for me is joy. And the reason I have joy is this. This is still the greatest country in the history of the world, right? It is. Some people say that we can't talk about American exceptionalism, but no civilization in the history of the world has done what we have done for as long as we have done it, right? We have governed ourselves. Governing ourselves, that is a radical idea in and of itself. No king, no monarch, no dictator. We decide the rules and the norms that we live by. And we have also done it in a multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-religious nation, a democratic melting pot. Never before in the history of the world has that happened. So of course, every generation or so, that revolutionary experiment is tested. Of course, every now and again, some demagogue comes along and says, it'd just be easier if one person was in charge. It'd just be safer if we all retreated to our tribes, right? So it's not unfamiliar, it's not unexpected. And I feel joy because of all of the places in the world, all of the times throughout history that I could have been dropped on this earth, that you could have been dropped onto this earth. You were dropped here at this moment, when this radical experiment of multicultural self-governance is under attack. This is a moment that you will tell your grandchildren, your children, your great-grandchildren about, when you decided to stand up and save this country from a path of destruction that we have decided is not inevitable, right? So feel anxiety, feel that anger, but feel that joy that you are living in a moment where you are going to be able to save this American experiment. Save it for another 10 years, another 20 years, another 50 years, another 250 years. It is worth fighting for, my friends. It is worth fighting for, my friends. Anderson, it is hot in here. It is hot in here. And let me reiterate, you have, Connecticut State Party is pretty good, but you got a fucking great state party here in North Carolina. Chair Clayton, lead us here. Lead us in a town hall. We want to get to everybody's questions and comments. Thanks, North Carolina. Thanks for having us.
I know it's hot, but I'm very excited that all of you are in here with us. And a very big thank you to our panel tonight, everybody. We are going to start it off. I have got questions that our fantastic coalitions director, Dorian Palmer, is bringing up right here. As you were in line, you were able to write down your question, because as you all can see, it would have been a little bit hard to get a microphone through this crowd in some cases, right? But we also have a couple of folks that we were able to pick out ahead of time who have really, really good questions to ask the representatives. And so I'm looking for in the crowd my Barbara in here, right here, behind. Miss Barbara right there, haha. And Nye right there is moving with the microphone.
Hey, thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. First, I want to thank both of you, for the energy and determination you brought to this fight for us. We really appreciate it. I drove up from Southern Pines over an hour to be here today. I work for an independent furniture and interior design company in Southern Pines. I work for an independent small company in Southern Pines, and business in the last month has absolutely fallen off a cliff. Yes, people are already being laid off. People are afraid. They're too afraid to spend their money, and it's actually hitting us right now. And I just want to know, how can we and the Democratic Party and you guys help us, small businesses now, by highlighting this issue a little bit more? I know there's a lot going on right now, but this one is really hitting right now. People keep saying it might be in the future a little bit when the tariffs kick in, but it is happening now.
Yeah, and listen, you see this in the polling. We have a record low number of Americans today that are optimistic about their economic future. Donald Trump's economic approval ratings are lower than they ever were in his first term. Listen, I think a lot of people voted for Donald Trump because they took him seriously when he said that his number one priority was going to be lowering costs, and they didn't take him seriously. They didn't take him seriously when he said he was going to be a dictator, right? Well, it turned out that he wasn't serious about lowering your costs, and he was serious about being a dictator, right? And so you got a lot of people in this country, you got a lot of people in North Carolina, conservative folks, who thought that this guy cared about the rule of law and that he also cared about lowering prices, who are seeing the real story right now. Let me tell you a quick story, and I'll turn it over to Maxwell about these tariffs, all right? When these tariffs came out, and they are destroying our economy right now, because one day they're on, one day they're off, nobody can plan, nobody can invest. There's not a single major capital project happening in many states all across this country because of the uncertainty. When they came out, people were like, they don't make any sense. I'm reading the document, who's in, who's out. It just doesn't make any sense as economic or tariff policy. And my theory of the case is this. It's because it's not economic policy. It's just another means to compel loyalty, all right? So why did Apple get one of the first big exemptions from the tariff? Was that coincidental to the fact that the CEO, Tim Cook, wrote $1 million check to Trump's inauguration? No. You are going to get an exemption from these tariffs. You are going to get relief from these tariffs if you pledge political loyalty to Donald Trump, right? If you pledge political loyalty to MAGA. Just like he's going after the law firms, just like he's going after the universities one by one, the tariffs allow him to go after each individual industry or each individual business and get them to sign up for his political project, all right? So you need to explain to people that this has nothing to do with creating jobs. This is all in service of trying to erode democratic norms, trying to ensconce Trump and his family in power permanently. And this is a message that sells everywhere, right? We need to be unafraid to talk about the disaster that is being wrought on our economy, not just in friendly audiences, but in Republican areas, in rural areas, in red states, in red districts. There are a lot of Trump voters right now who are scratching their head, thinking twice about a guy who clearly only cares about the economy for billionaires and doesn't give a shit about the economy for the rest of us.
I'll say really quick so we can move on to the next question so we can get as many people as possible. The other thing we need to do is look at accountability here. Because like he just said, it was about compelling loyalty, but also enriching his friends. You saw that video of him in the Oval Office saying he just made $22 billion. He just made $10 billion. Something else I want to look at is we had some Republican members of Congress make some interesting trades when this happened. We need to investigate that. We need to see exactly who was taking part in insider trading. And when we get in power, we need to ban members of Congress from trading stock. I'll tell you that.
Thank you. Thank you to Barbara for also being a small business employee. We really appreciate it, and thank you for your question. We're going to go next up. We've got LaVon in the crowd, in the house, right here too. And Nye with my microphone.
Here we go. All right, can we hear me? I'm going to put my teacher voice on, since that's what I do for a living.
Thank you.
And welcome to Alamance County. That's why I want to welcome you here. As a proud, where it's hot. As a proud public school educator of over 20 years, with the last 11 of those years being right here in North Carolina, I have the honor of seeing, hearing, mentoring, and teaching the next generation every single day. They see how their schools are falling apart, how they're experiencing losing their favorite teacher, and how college is not feasible for their family. What is the true disconnect and beef that the Republican Party has against public schools? Because I'm pretty sure that the vast majority of them learned from, as a student, someone who went to a public school or has public school ties to them. And then Maxwell, what do you tell the next generation about what opportunities they are truly going to have when you have leaders in our local, state, and federal offices that have shown them that they mean nothing? So that could be to you and to our minority leader in the back as well.
Yeah. Well, I'll answer it, and then I'll hand it over to the leader. Look, what's going on in public education right now is a decades-long mission of the Republican Party to do one thing and one thing only: privatize public education. Privatize public education. That's what they're trying to do. But to make that, it's very unpopular even with Republicans. And so to do this, they have to do step one: destroy public education. They have to destroy it. They have to make it fail. They have to make it fail so they can point to it and say, see, I told you so. We need to ship this off to some companies because a private organization will be able to do it in a better way. But we know it's complete BS. We see right through these lies. This is connected to the bigger story we're talking about. They cannot stand the fact that there are parts of our society that people are not getting rich off of. That's why they want to privatize Social Security, why they want to privatize public education as well. And thank you for being a teacher. My mom just retired as a public school educator of 37 years. And for all 37 years, my mom was a special education teacher. And I'll tell you this, the Department of Education does not dictate curriculum to the states. The states create the curriculum. School boards do this. But what the Department of Education does is fill the gaps to ensure that no matter where you live, if you live in rural America, if you live in the inner city, if you're a student with a disability, that you have a chance to get an education too. That's what that's about. So our fight here, look, many Americans, and me too, have a lot of skepticism in our institutions. And a lot of it comes from a real valid place. So I'm not here to be the defender of an institution, but I am here to be the defender of programs and people. Head Start matters. Title I funding matters. Pell matters. School lunches matter because kids need to have a full belly to learn in school. And so when people ask me about this fight for public education, I always explain this to them. To see it clearly, we know that they want public education. This is what's going on in Florida right now. Our schools aren't doing well. And it's not even just about defunding it. It's about making it unbearable for the teachers to work there. Make it unbearable for the students to go there. Make it so that way people feel like they want to go somewhere else in the first place. And this is why, if you meet a public school educator right now, shake their hand and buy them a beer. Because it is hard. It is hard. So, in fact, if you're a public school educator, let me see your hand. Thank you. Thank you. Here's the thing, y'all. Here's the thing. They said they want to run this country like a company and a business. There's a reason we don't do that. Take the Postal Service, for instance. They want to privatize the Postal Service. But do you know who the top customers of the Postal Service is? FedEx, UPS, Amazon, all the companies that they want to give the whole program to. Why? Because there are rural communities that Amazon, that FedEx, that UPS don't really service. Why? because they lose money on those routes. But the Postal Service doesn't care to make money. They care to get you your damn mail. That's why we have these public goods. So no matter where you live, you get that service. It is the same thing with public education. There are institutions that are in it to make money, but public schools aren't about the money. It's about the children, it's about the future, it's about the present.
And thank you, Levon, for the question. Thank you for all the public educators who are here. And I will add a little something to that. Understand what's going on, and this goes back to what Senator Murphy was saying. It's all interconnected. You've got a group of people who have looked, and they have said, we are losing control. People are doing things for themselves. People are still in control of the government. We're not able to fix these elections. We're not able to do things to stop people from electing folks we don't want. And the first thing they know they've got to do is to cut off your education. So they want you to sit around and think this is about cutting off education for black kids, for brown kids, for white kids, for Asian kids. What it's about is cutting off education for working people. That is simply that. And all of their policies right now are about cutting out education, cutting out health care. Not only are they making the classrooms unbearable, they're trying to make your lives unbearable. They are spending all of their time trying to figure out how to make you just give up. And think about how disheartening it is. The first generation in this country's history that is looking at its children, knowing that their children, if we let things continue to go, are going to have a worse life than we did. That is insane. That is not what we're made for. This is the greatest country in the midst of the greatest and richest civilization in the history of the world. And we are because we do not let 1% of our country, the wealthy, decide what's going to happen with the rest of us. But again, back to what you've heard from both Senator Murphy and Representative Frost, this is going to be a joint effort. You can have as many great elected officials and great public teachers and all the folks that you want, but what's going to determine who's going to be running this country are going to be the people sitting out here and the people who aren't sitting out here. Because what you're going to do, let me tell you something, as bad as social media is, and I won't start preaching about social media because then I'll really sound like an old man. But seriously, billionaires aren't what make things go viral. Billionaires aren't the way that things happen. They spend a ton of money to make you miserable, but organically, we get our message through. So when you are hearing stories that are detrimental to people like us, get those stories out there. Get it on your Facebook, get it on your Instagram, get it on your TikTok, and whatever's coming next. Get that out. But then when you hear the good stories, because let me promise you what I can tell you that these folks up here stand for, you need to be able to work 40 hours a week and be able to have a home, to be able to afford food, and to be able to not worry about your health care. And that's what we stand for. That's not a Republican ideal. That's not a Democratic ideal. That's an American ideal. You make sure people know that when they vote this time around, they're not voting for some pie in the sky. They are voting to save the lives of the next generation, and all of us have a next generation. So please continue to work it.
Next up, I know, is Kristen Powers in the house? If she could raise her hand, potentially. Aha, okay, she's right there. Next question is up.
Hello, everyone. My name's Kristen Powers. I go by KP. I live 10 minutes from here, and I'm the director of a nonprofit that focuses on rural reentry, predominantly formerly incarcerated people coming home from prison. Thank you. And I've been doing this work for about 8 years, and sometimes I get asked, do I ever feel unsafe working with people convicted of serious crimes who have done serious harm in our community? And I feel a lot of things. Unsafe is not one of them. And I think that's because the people I work with have housing, They know where they're sleeping at night, where their next meal is coming from. They have a paycheck and a good one. They have Medicaid, which is expanded only a few years ago. That's been game-changing for our organization. They have mental health care, substance use health care, and a community that supports them. And many of them said part of what led to their incarceration was not being able to access those things, like domestic violence interruption or addiction support. And we only have 9 beds, and there's 2,500 women coming home from prison every year. We just cannot meet the need. And yet I hear this national narrative that public safety is more prisons, more police, more punishment, which I think we've done for some decades, and seeing that results in the largest incarceration population in the world, above Iran, Russia, Cuba. And I'm wondering if you all think there's an opportunity from where you stand to flip this script about public safety and instead say we're all safe when our basic needs are met, and that those who are stripping away the resources from our communities are actually the ones making us unsafe. And thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you for what you do. A round of applause for all the fantastic work you do for folks who are coming out of incarceration. So, through my work and through my collective work with Maxwell on the gun violence epidemic in this country, I spend a lot of time in neighborhoods that have relatively high rates of gun violence. And I'll never, ever forget a conversation I had in Baltimore, Maryland, at a time when Baltimore's gun violence rates were through the roof. I was walking through the streets with a middle-aged gentleman who had been shot 9 times in his life. And he was explaining to me this very simple connection, right, between poverty and the kind of risky behaviors that eventually end you up in trouble. And he said to me something very, very simple, a sentence I'll never, ever forget. He said, Mr. Murphy, hunger, it hardens the heart, right? It hardens the heart, right? What you will do, what you will contemplate doing when you and your family are hungry, right? They are hard things. If you go into a homeless shelter anywhere in my state, you will find people that are working 40 hours a week, sometimes 50 hours a week. But a living wage in this country is not a minimum wage, right? In this country, in the most powerful, most affluent country in the world, the minimum wage should be a living wage, right? But this narrative about crime that is the dominant narrative in the Trump campaign and the Trump White House, it is also just a mechanism to try to make us scared of each other, right? It's a mechanism to try to divide us, to convince us that we should be afraid of new entrants to this country, that we should be afraid of gay and transgender kids in our schools, that we should be afraid of people who practice a different religion from us. The facts are stubborn things. I listened to them talk about this migrant crime wave for years, despite the fact that immigrants to this country commit crimes at a lower rate than people who are born in this country, right? You may not like that fact, but that is a fact. That is a fact. And their entire focus on crime and the threats that are posed to us by people who are different from us is just an attempt to paper over and confuse us as they get away with the thievery, right? The corruption is harder to track if you spend all of your days being angry or scared of your neighbor. If you are afraid to go outside in the morning, it's a lot easier to be able to get away with the Trump meme coin, right? If we are just spending all of our time being scared of each other. So listen, it is important that we build a kind of shared prosperity in this country so that no one has to resort to acts of desperation in order to feed their families. But it is also important for us to call out their attempts to divide us from each other as just a mechanism to try to distract us from the kleptocratic oligarchy that they are trying to build. All right.
Thank you so much for your work. And one of the proudest moments of my life is I was the field director for the ACLU of Florida in 2018. And We passed something called Amendment 4, which restored voting rights to over 1.6 million people who had felonies who had served their sentence. It was one of the proudest moments of my life. But I'll tell you this. An accomplishment I'm really proud of that we worked on together is working to push, at the time, the Biden administration to start the first ever federal Office of Gun Violence Prevention. And I'll tell you, when I first got the call from the office, the first thing I asked was, who's staffing it? Like, what is it going to look like? What experiences will be in there? And it had a really good friend of mine who was a deputy director named Greg Jackson. And Greg is someone that years ago was walking down a street in Washington, D.C., and a drive-by happened. He was shot. He woke up in the hospital to law enforcement questioning him like he was the one doing the shooting. And that experience was helping to run this office. And part of what this office did is they would help communities across the country get federal grants for what's called community violence intervention. And these intervention programs all around the country identify people who are most likely to shoot somebody and identify people who are most likely to be shot, and they actually intervene. They create relationships and they break the cycle of violence. And guess what? Because of the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, because money, for the first time in our country's history, hundreds of millions of dollars went to communities across this country to focus on people and breaking the cycle of violence. Gun violence over the last 3 years in this country has gone down the most it ever has. Ever. 40% down in Boston. 23% down in Chicago. These are big. Baltimore has the least amount of homicides by gun they've ever had right now. And it's because the laws work. The money works. Giving money to organizations such as yours works at keeping us safe. And we can't let, like Chris said, we can't let these billionaires and corporations gaslight us. You know what the largest kind of theft is in this country? Wage theft. Wage theft. We want everybody to feel safe and actually be safe. And we actually have the policies that prove it.
Thank you to the folks that just spoke. And now we're going to go to some of our questions from the box. My husband does humanitarian aid with USAID. Congress appropriated the funding. Is anything in the works to get the funding back?
Well, listen, USAID saves lives all over the world, but here in the United States of America as well, right? Right. When we are engaged in trying to lift people up out of poverty overseas, when we are engaged in trying to quell simmering violence, when we are trying to stop stable places from becoming unstable, we are preventing the United States from being dragged into conflicts overseas. The USAID protects lives here in the United States of America. What Donald Trump has done is terrible for the security of the United States, but it is also unconstitutional and illegal, right? You cannot shut down an agency that has been authorized and funded by the United States Congress. And so we need to do we need to do a better job of explaining to the American people the comprehensive set of tools that we need to protect this country. Listen, I honor our warfighters, our soldiers, our sailors, our airmen, our Marines. They protect us, but so do our diplomats, so do our humanitarian workers, so do our aid workers. They are just as vital to the protection of U.S. national security interests as our military heroes are. And guess who delights when USAID gets removed from the world? Well, our enemies do, our adversaries do. Who steps into that breach but China, right? And by the way, it isn't disconnected from Elon Musk. Why do you think USAID was the first agency that Musk went after? You know where his second biggest source of business is outside the United States? China, right? And what's the one agency that China wants removed from the world scene? USAID. So China got a big favor from Elon Musk right at the moment where Elon Musk was trying to do new deals in China for a variety of businesses. This whole thing stinks. This whole thing is all about this central story of corruption. The billionaire class operationalizing our government for their corrupt purposes, for their enrichment, which is why, whether it's USAID or the wholesale destruction of our public schools or the work that he's doing to undermine universities and law firms, it's all part of that central story, right? That central story about the billionaire takeover of government made possible by the destruction of our democracy. It's a story that we're going to tell, and when we tell it, we know that the people are going to stand up and make sure that it never becomes a reality.
Representative Frost, this one's for you. What can we as citizens do to stop? What can we as citizens do to stop illegal and unconstitutional deportations?
A few things. I'm going to give you a few ideas, but the main thing I want to tell you, this is what I tell everyone they ask, what can I do? Tell me what I need to do. You need to get involved with a local group that will tell you what to do every day. And these groups are across the country, across your state, and real talk, they've been asking you for help for a long time. But the good thing is it's never too late to get involved. Those are the people you need to ask, what do I need to do? I'll tell you generally things you can do, but the groups locally will tell you exactly what you can do tomorrow right here. And when we all do that across the nation, that is how we're going to not only stop what's going on, because stopping what's going on is just one piece of this puzzle. I didn't get into politics just to defend the things we already have. I got into politics to build the world I want to live in. And so, get involved with the local group. I'm sure the North Carolina Democratic Party could use your help, your local Democratic Party. If you don't want to get involved with the local party, there's local organizations, there's mutual aid, there's so much you can do. Just pick a thing and go at it. But we also need people. We've seen people across the country go out on the streets. Who's been to any of the protests over the last few months? These protests are very important. Why? Because the true testament, and this is something I always told my organizers when I worked on March for Our Lives, is the true testament of an organizer is what you do when nobody is paying attention. The true testament of a movement is what you do when the world is paying attention. This is what's going on right now. And it's up to us to show Trump and to show Republicans that run or that represent districts like your representative that you're not okay with what's going on, and that holds power. This is what authoritarians do throughout history. They get into power, and guess what? They're not satisfied with the power they have. So they kind of tiptoe outside the law. They do it a bunch, and this is what Trump is doing. They'll break the law, and then what do? They look and listen to the public to see, do I have permission to keep going? I'm going to deport Mr. Abrego Garcia with no due process, and when the Supreme Court tells me to do something about it, I'm going to flip the bird at the Supreme Court. And then I'm going to listen and look at the public to see, does anyone give a shit? And when we don't speak up, what are we telling him? Yes, we're telling him, go ahead and do what you want to do. That's why the protests are important. And they're working. I'm going to tell you, just last week, 12 of my Republican colleagues wrote a letter to Mike Johnson saying, hey, look, if there's a budget that comes with Medicaid cuts, we got to vote no. I promise you, they would have never said that on the record if it wasn't for people showing up to their town halls and giving them hell, if it wasn't for other representatives going to their town halls and hosting town halls for them, if it wasn't for the millions of people going out on the streets, all this stuff works together. Here's the thing. If we have a one-pronged strategy, we're screwed. We're cooked. We have to fight everywhere we can, in the institution, outside of the institution. And something I've been telling people, and this is my message for electeds across the country. Look, no one wants to hear about the power we don't have. We all know that. But when you don't have the power you want, you got to use the power you got. And we have power in this moment. This is part of the reason why We're like one of the only countries in the world where if you don't hold the majority, you call yourself the minority. I don't call myself the minority. It feels like an already defeatist position. We're the opposition. We're the opposition. We're not the minority. We're not the minority. And so those are a few things you can do, but the last thing I'll say is that I was just at a town hall that I hosted in my district, because I host town halls in my district, and somebody stood up. He was a federal worker. He had just been fired from NASA, and he gave his heartfelt story, and it was very powerful. And then he asked what he could do. And what I told him is, man, I need you to tell that story in as many places as you can. Tell it at the HOA, tell it at your church, tell it at the school, tell it at the grocery store, tell it everywhere. Because I'll tell you, this is one thing that Trump does that I think has helped him, is he will go to unlikely places to give his message. We have to do the same. We can't just go to the political places and speak to the political people. We got to go to where America is at. Whether it's independent media, whether it's creators, whatever it is, and sports, music. I'm a drummer, so I go to a lot of concerts and talk to people there. We got to go to where the people are not expecting to hear the message and talk to them about it. And when we meet America where they're going to meet us where we're at. And that's how we're going to build power.
What are we, you, doing to protect funding to Medicaid, Medicare, and healthcare access?
So 24% of American families use Medicaid as their primary insurance. And you don't know it by the name of Medicaid. It's a different name in every state. And the popular impression of Medicaid, often amongst Republicans, is that these are, folks who aren't working, who aren't pulling their weight. Almost everybody on the Medicaid program is a working American, right? Who just works for a company that doesn't provide them health care. And so the only way that they can get health care is through the Medicaid program. And most of those families pay for the Medicaid program. It's not free for most families. They have to put in what they can make. And just like we saw with our effort to roll back the repeal of the Affordable Care Act, people in this country do not want an administration that's going to destroy their access to affordable health care in this country. They don't want that. And so for us, this is about building a popular movement and telling the true story of what's happening here. This budget bill that they are talking about passing right now, they are moving it through the House and the Senate. It's a pretty simple story. It's about $1 trillion in cuts to the Medicaid program, and that means automatically millions of people all across the country lose their access to health care. And guess what? It's $1 trillion in tax cuts for the richest 1%, right? So when I say it's the most massive transfer of wealth and resources from the poor and the middle class to the rich in this country, that's the story. Throwing people off their health care in order to pass along another tax cut for the wealthy. Who in this country is for that, right? That plan, that proposal probably has like a 5% approval rating in this nation. And so our job is to explain that story everywhere and anywhere that we can. Right here in North Carolina, you guys hold the keys, right? You have 2 senators here who will have hell to pay if they vote for that bill to cut Medicaid in order to enrich the billionaire class. In the House of Representatives, how many Republicans have to vote no? 2, 3, maybe 4. 2, 3, 4 Republicans have to vote no. You have the ability to tell your Republican House members that if they vote for the biggest transfer of wealth from the poor and the middle class to the rich, there's going to be hell to pay here in North Carolina, right? Their margins are so small in both the House and the Senate. Almost every state in this country has the ability to try to force their members of Congress to do what Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski and John McCain did back in 2017. And so this is the most important fight that we are engaged in right now. The Medicaid program literally keeps millions of people alive in this country. It is the healthcare program of last resort. If you have a medical condition, if your child has a medical condition that it is so complicated that no private insurer will offer you a plan, it is Medicaid that keeps you alive. from everybody from FDR to Hubert Humphrey has said a version of this, but the measure of a civilization is how it treats the most vulnerable, the most powerless, the most dispossessed amongst us. And I know Donald Trump wants us to believe that this is a mean, spiteful nation, but we are not. We are a good, generous nation. We are a good, generous nation that wants to make sure that those people who just through bad luck, their lot in life, have a disease that strips from them the ability to stand on 2 feet like you and I do. The good people of this country want to make sure that those people still have health care that allows them to live from day to day. So don't fall into this trap of believing that the only way that you convince someone to stand up for any program, the Medicaid program, programs that support federal employees, USAID, is by explaining their self-interest, right? I'm not saying that that isn't a powerful argument to explain how it affects that individual person that you are talking to. But Americans still do care about their neighbors, despite what Donald Trump wants us to believe. We can ask people to believe in a bigger common project, something called the common good, something that we used to value in this country before we decided that it was just everybody sinking or swimming of their own merit and their own good luck. Don't be afraid to play to people's better angels. That is part of the way that we will beat Donald Trump.
And our last question of the evening before I let our fantastic panel wrap it up. Yes, sir, Leader Reeves.
I want to get one thing in on Medicaid.
Go for it.
I want to make sure everybody remembers one other thing about Medicaid. If it all starts falling apart at federal level, the state still got responsibility. And I tell you that because this is something, if you don't remember anything else anybody said tonight, I want you to understand this. Just like we just talked about, Maxwell told you they need four Republicans in Congress to do what they're supposed to do. How many do you need in the Senate?
We need that same number, 4.
If 8 people decide that you matter more than Trump's friends, 8 people, then we can stop this madness. And the reason I want to remind you about the states is because all this stuff happening at the federal level is got the news going. We're not paying attention to what's happening at the state level. And the exact same stuff's happening at the state level. If you are an elected Republican in North Carolina, you are in complete control of every facet of government here. You have gutted the governor's office, so we got nothing left. So anything good or bad, you got to own. They always want to talk about the good stuff that they think they've done, but they don't want to own the bad. They've got to stand up for you. And not only should there be hell to pay for those 2 senators, any elected Republican who ignores their obligation to the people that they represent need to be held to pay too. You can keep inviting them to your church. You can keep inviting them to the picnics, but you need to invite them after they're unelected. Because we've got to start having accountability up and down. Because if we don't stop this, just like you were just told, if we don't stop this now, where they're testing the boundaries, they're seeing what they can get away with, this president will go away and somebody else will just take his place. That will be worse because they know what they can do. So it is on us to make sure anybody that is elected that has a chance to stop this, we remember them in 26.
So you touched on a little bit, Representative Frost, earlier about what people can do. But can you name specific ideas for how we at the local level can do things radically different to engage those that are not voting?
Ooh, I love this question. Well, let me go back to what I was talking about when I was talking about going to unlikely places. I'm going to tell you, there's an interview I did that is the interview that when I'm walking down the street or I'm online and someone's not involved in politics, this is usually the interview they bring up. And it is because I did an interview with the third best Yu-Gi-Oh player in the country. If you don't know what Yu-Gi-Oh is, it is the best card game in the world. Yeah, and I'm starting something. It is a card game. And I did this with him, and I dueled him because I play too, and I'm pretty good. And we did this duel, and while we did it, we talked about politics. And I had so many people that reached out to me after that said, dude, I don't give a damn about politics. But I saw my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh player playing a congressman, and I had to watch. But I resonate with what you said. And I bring this up because this is a criticism I've had for our party for a while. That where it's about what we say, but it's also about where we say it. And we have to figure out ways, this is a motto I have for my team, to bridge the gap between cool and consciousness. When we're able to bridge that gap, when culture and advocacy morph into one, and it's almost like blurred lines, you can't tell the difference, that's true power. Think of any of the successful social movements in our country's history, and really in the history of the world. They were all part of the culture. I think back to another one of my proudest moments, March for Our Lives, where I was the national organizing director. And I'll tell you, I remember being at the rally in Orlando, walking around, and I ran into a group of 3 friends I actually went to elementary school with. And we had stayed in touch. And I was like, guys, I know you hate politics. Why the hell are you here? The first person said, because my friends came, and I came with my friends. The second person said, because Beyonce told me to come, and so I felt like I needed to come. And the third person said, I don't know, I just felt like I needed to be here. Those 3 answers are the same answer, because that movement became part of American culture. And my favorite one of those answers is the last one. I don't know. I just felt like I needed to be here. I just felt like I needed to listen to that song. I just felt like I needed to watch that movie. I just felt like I needed to turn on the game. I just felt like I needed to fight with my friends, with my family, with my society, with my community, for our people. That is what we got to do. That is what we got to do. So do it here. Do it here locally. Go to the shows. Go to sports events. Go to places where people are not expecting you to be. And don't shove stuff down people's throats. Come authentically. Come real. And view it as you not asking people to do you a favor. I always told this to my volunteers. You're not asking people to do you a favor. You're giving people the opportunity to be a part of something bigger than all of us. You're giving people an opportunity to be a part of this fight, which is really important. And so that's my biggest piece of advice when it comes down to bridging that gap between cool and consciousness. And do it authentically. There's a lot of politicians who try to use art, try to use culture to win campaigns and win stuff. When you do that, we see right through it. Don't use culture to win something. Just say, I want to be a part of the conversation. And when you do that, people see that authenticity, and they'll want you to be a part of it as well. So that's what I would say about that. And everybody give yourself a round of applause. We're each going to say a few final words. I'll give it to Leader Reeves real quick.
What am I doing? Oh, final words. Okay, all right.
We're wrapping up.
Okay, all right. What I want to say is, now that you've given yourselves a hand, please give a hand to Senator Murphy and Representative Frost. Who are walking the walk. This guy from Connecticut and this guy from Florida are here at Saxophone. That's walking the walk. You are here, and thank you for that. Thank you to the DNC. Thank you to our chair. I wish I had her energy. I wish I had that much of your energy. I could be great. I could run this world. But my last words are this. You have this in your hands. We can get as many great speeches. We can have as many collections and things of this sort. We can do all of this. But what's going to matter is, and I love that Maxwell's talked about this, is getting out into those hard-to-reach spaces And I am telling you, I can speak for me, and I bet you, and obviously I can speak for these two because they're here. Wherever you can get us in, we'll come. Whoever needs to get talked to, we'll talk to. But folks have got to understand this is about us. And I will leave you with this. I've had a lot of things I've had to think about over the last few months. It's been trying, it's been difficult. I got raised in a household where I just love people. I don't see people of any kind as enemies. I see them as people that I can learn from, that I can be around, that can enrich my life. I love being in Chatham County. I've got Chatham and Randolph County. I know I got some of my Chatham County folk here. And, all right. And I'm not talking bad about Alamance, Ricky. Be cool. But I love in Chatham that if I run into 3 people, one of them is nowhere near from North Carolina, maybe from another country, has had a completely different life, and they enrich it and make me better. And what I've thought about is Mrs. Burns, who you would not know. She's not an educator. She's not somebody who worked some job in politics that you would know, but I've thought about her a lot the last 4 months because she was my ride to school, kindergarten, first and second grade. She was an older white lady who was lucky enough to work in this country for 30 years for the same plant and retire. And when her children had children, she was able to be there for daycare. She was able to be there to be the grandma for all of us in the neighborhood who had to get back and forth to sports and places. And I remember how positive a feeling I had about her and anybody like her for the rest of my life, because it didn't matter what I looked like. It didn't matter that I didn't grow up with her or she didn't grow up with my parents or anything of that sort. What mattered to her is that I was a child that needed. And she was there to help me. And she was able to afford to help me because this country made sure that when she retired, she had Social Security. She had health care. She had enough economic opportunity that she owned her house. And then she was able to be there for her kids when they needed her, and they had a better life than even what she had. And we're getting that country back because of you guys. Thank you for being here.
So, during my campaign, there was a very specific night I think about all the time. For people who don't know, number one, when you run for office, it's not a job you get paid for. And I quit my job to run for Congress. And I thought I had enough money in the bank to last me a year and a half. I didn't have enough money in the bank to last me a year and a half. I got priced out of my house. I experienced homelessness for about 2 months. And then I had to make money, so I found a job so I could make some money that was flexible with my campaign schedule, and I became an Uber driver. And I met a lot of people. But there was one night, it was about 3 a.m. I just got done doing an Uber shift of I call it the drunk Uber shift. Not because I was drunk. I was driving drunk people. Okay. And I'm filling up at the gas station, and I drop a whole box of buttons from my campaign, and a man comes up to me, helps me pick them up. And he looks at a button and goes, Max Frost, who's this guy? I'm like, oh, that's me. I'm running for Congress. And he tells me he's a homeless veteran. And we start talking while the gas is pumping. This pump was going so slow for some reason. But I think it was kind of a divine intervention that it was going slow, because we spoke for a minute. And he asked me about my platform. I told him about my platform, and we got to healthcare. And I said, I believe in something called Medicare for all, because I think everyone should have healthcare. And he had bought into this politics of scarcity, that Donald Trump, Elon Musk, that the billionaires and mega corporations want us to all believe, that the world is better when we feel like there's not enough to go around, that if you get rights, I'm losing rights, that if you have healthcare, I'm losing healthcare. And not only did I tell him that was a lie, but something he asked me that broke my heart is he said, well, why do you think we all deserve healthcare? This is a veteran, a homeless veteran, asking me why I thought he deserved health care. And I looked at him and said, man, you deserve health care by virtue of being alive and nothing else. That is what this is about. This is about looking at people and saying, I love this Barbara Jordan quote. She's the first black queer woman in Congress from the state of Texas. She said, what the people want is simple, a country as great as its promise. We haven't lived up to that promise yet, but we will. That promise is saying everybody deserves to be healthy and have health care. That promise is saying in the richest country on the face of the earth, nobody should live on the streets. Everybody deserves a roof over their head. Everybody deserves clean water, clean air. One job is enough. The right to organize in the workplace. The ability to go to the store, to go to church without the fear of being gunned down. It's about true freedom. And that's why we're traveling the country and having these conversations with people. And I'll tell you what, when I talk to people, and we've been speaking with Democrats, Republicans, people of all sorts, people believe in that. Let's stop letting folks divide us by all these damn categories when we all have so much in common. This human condition, this American condition, binds us all together. So thank you, everyone, for being here. Let's spread our message. I see your message. Thank you, Chris, Max, and Anderson. I saw some other signs. Where are the signs? Freedom, first and freedom, not fascism, education for all. Save NIH, fund with science. I'm 6'3", 224 pounds. Oh, and fuck fascism, I think. Due process is not optional. So thank you all for being here, and to close us out, Chris Murphy.
Maxwell Frost, everybody. Thanks, Maxwell. I love in that previous answer, the second to last answer, Maxwell was talking about, how you translate to people who maybe aren't super into politics. He's like, you just have to be cool. You just have to be cool. Well, that's super easy for you to say, Maxwell. Not all of us are as cool as you are. Yeah, I'm trying to be dad cool. So listen. We're here because your congressman isn't, and I want to bring us back, right, to the reason that we are here. And so one of the things I want to do before we leave is I want to be able to send Congressman Hudson a message, okay? So we're going to do a little something together here before we wrap up. So Maxwell and the leader and I are, going to say hello to him, and we're going to tell him we're with some of his constituents. And then we'll turn the video to you, and we're going to say that his constituents have a question, and the question is simple: where are you? Right? So do this, and we'll post this online. We'll send it to him. We'll see if he responds. So we're going to do it this way, right? Because then we're going to turn it around. All right. All right, you guys got to be quiet first because we want to make sure he doesn't know you're here. There you go. Ready? Good job, Anderson. We'll do it this way, right? Here we go. All right, Congressman Hudson, me and Maxwell and your chair and your minority leader, we came here because apparently you are not willing to talk to your constituents, but there's a few of your constituents that are here with us today, and they have a question for you. Where are you? Thank you, guys. Well done, well done. I don't think that's going to change his mind. But let me just tell you, let me just finish with a story, all right? I want to finish with a serious story for you, and then we'll let everybody go. You guys have been good to be here with us tonight. So at my last town hall that I did in Connecticut, it was packed. We had a room twice as big as this. Every seat was filled. And how I do my town halls is I have people stand in lines in the aisles, and we have a microphone at the front. And so I stayed there as long as I could, and I answered every question that I could. And I could see the person at the back of the line. And the reason that I stayed way longer than I had planned was because I saw the last person that wanted to ask a question. And I couldn't tell exactly how old she was, but it looked like she was about 6 or 7 or 8 years old. And she gets to the front, and we bring the microphone down to her, and she introduces herself as Charlotte, 8 years old. And Charlotte's question was pretty simple, but her voice was trembling. She was so scared and so nervous. She had probably just worked herself up into a nervous frenzy waiting in that hour-long line. And her question was this. She said, Senator Murphy, I I heard that President Trump is talking about doing away with the free school lunch program. And I don't need that program myself, but I have kids that I go to school with who wouldn't be able to eat if that program went away. And I didn't think they would come here tonight, so I decided to come on their behalf and ask you, what are you going to do? What are you going to do to make sure that my kids, that my friends have something to eat at lunch? Right? I'm like blown away. And all I have been thinking about since that night is how much belief that little girl has, not in me, but in us, right? In this country. That she would be so bold to stand in line for an hour and a half, maybe it was 2 hours, to just raise this concern, this worry that she has every day for her friends. Again, more proof that there is something in this world called the common good, right? That there is something inside of us that makes us get up every day and, yes, worry first about ourselves and our immediate family, but also our friends, also our neighbors. There is goodness. There is goodness in this country. There is goodness in this country. And I guess I'm traveling the country with Maxwell on her behalf, right? To make sure that everywhere, in every corner of this country, people are willing to stand up and fight for the country that she believes in. North Carolina, are you ready to stand up and fight for that country? It takes a level of relentlessness to stand up to this kind of corruption. It takes a belief in America that is uncommon, that is undying, to stop this thievery. I am so glad that Maxwell and I and the leader and Anderson were able to be here with you tonight. You're not going to stop fighting, are you? You're not going to stop holding those that are hiding from you accountable, are you? You're not going to stop fighting for that little girl, for Charlotte in West Hartford, Connecticut, are you? Thank you very much, North Carolina. Thanks for having us tonight.
And North Carolina, what y'all can look forward to, our leaders have got to do a couple press hits now, but what we're going to have is BJ Barham from American Aquarium is going to come out and play us a little tune, and then if they've got time, they might meet y'all outside afterwards. Who knows, you know? I don't know. I'll be honest with you, they're looking at me kind of weird about that one. But anyway, thank you all so much for coming. Again, you can get